My name is Oupa Moloto, representing the class of 1976. Before the morning of June 16, 1976, we had a meeting at Morris Isaacson High School where we addressed young people at that time that what is it that is going to happen on the following day. We had agreed with students that they must do placards or posters that will be having a message of June 16, what it will be all about. The students were asked to write things like away with Africans, away with Bantu education, and also others included the things that were of challenges to them at that particular time. Because as students, it was very exciting for us to have that opportunity of being involved in the march. On the morning of the day, we arrived at Morris Isaacson High School, where the assembly was addressed by the late principal by the name of Lekgau Mathabate. He was with our teacher at that time, Fanyane Mazibuku. After the assembly, they went to the staff room with teachers, and Tsietsi got on stage with Mefferson Morobe to address the students. And then we started singing Senzeni Senzeni Na, and that was the beginning of the march. We went out of the yard of the school at Morris, where we were going to fetch other students from neighboring schools, which they joined the march. We went to the school where today we discovered that that's where Antoinette Stole, that is the sister to Hector Peterson, was coming from. And we went down through the road singing. And other march were coming from the Naledi High, the others were to come from Skanantwana High, where we are going to converge at Vilakazi Street with the purpose of going to Orlando Stadium to have a rally. And then when we arrived at Vilakazi Street, as we were singing, there appears the police. And one who was leading the police, he was having a loud hailer. He asked the students to disperse. But the message was not very audible because this side the students were singing, and this side you couldn't hear clearly what was really happening. Before we could even respond to the message that was coming from the police, they released a police dog which charges students. And the male students retaliated by taking stones to stone the dog because it was biting the students who were at that time. Before we could realize what exactly was happening, and then the shooting started. Some of us were not sure it was really live ammunition because the sound sounded like crackers. Then I realized one student was next to me bleeding on the hand. Then that's when it clicked into one's mind that these people are shooting at us. And then we ran to the copies that is not far from Vilakazi Street and started to take stones to defend ourselves. Before it could go anywhere, there were already helicopters that were hovering around and they were releasing tear gas. We ran into the neighboring houses to try and hide. And from there, everything went out of hand because we realized Hector was already shot by the police, that 13-year-old. But the spirit of the class of 1976, that's where we find Mbuisa Makubu, who went in to pick up Hector. Actually, when he moves, he's moving more towards where the police were shooting. And that's where now Ntaten Zema and Sophie came into the picture and took Antoinette, that is Hector Peterson's sister, to the hospital. And then we went into different directions. And then the cars, which were delivery vans, and actually we referred to them as the system at that particular time. I went back to Morris Isaacson, and when I arrived there already, there were again helicopters. We had a white teacher in Morris Isaacson at a particular time which was rescued by the police using a helicopter. Unfortunately, there was another white by the name of Dr. Eldenstein, who was running administration of the office next to Maurice Isaacson. He was stoned by the students, and he actually maybe is the first white to be killed on a particular day. 1976 helped in terms of many students who went out of the country to join the underground of Pan-Africanist Congress, ANC, and other liberation movements that were operating at that particular time. The most painful thing that will remain with the class of 76, we lost our colleagues because after 1976, they went out of the country to join the underground movement, and the remains have not been found. When that period comes, the families that lost their loved ones, it is a pain within their families. I remember when I went into underground, we were arrested between South Africa and Swaziland. But all during these altercations, 3 people I was with have lost their lives, and I remain alone. I'm saying probably if there was no June 16, 1976, I wouldn't be living with that pain because there was no closure. I mean, a man like Roy Mbele has gone missing. His remains has not been found. All the time it remains a question that what happened to him. Mboiswa Makubi himself, the man who's carrying Hector Peterson, is still missing today. Nobody can account exactly what happened to him. And of course, June 16, 1976 became a catalyst in the liberation of the country. Our lives changed forever. We did not enjoy our youth. We had the political freedom. We hope during our lifetime we'll see economic freedom that can be enjoyed by young people. Actually, when you engage young people, they say they are celebrating a day. And with us, we want the day to be commemorated. The day should be given the same respect like other cultures, they give their dates respect. You look at the Japanese, when they commemorate Hiroshima. You look at the Jews when they commemorate their days. Because young people are saying to us, they are moving on. They talk in terms of the Industrial Revolution, robotics. It's as if the oppression has been left with us. But now with me, I complain of the color of my skin. Today, they are being defined by their hair at their schools. It means the challenges we had in 1976, young people still got those challenges today. Now, what we could appeal to young people, June 16 did not come easy. June 16 came with the shed of blood. June 16 make some of the leaders of 1976 and prior, even in their death, not to have dignity. Onkgopotse Tiro was sent a letter bomb. You will imagine what type of his corpse were. There was no dignity. Even if you call the family to come and see, you close your eyes. Then Tate Joe Kabi was, instead of being shot at in terms of assassination, the explosives were put in his car so that it exploded with him. If you look at how Steve Biko met his death, the brain being swelled, he's been driven from over 800 kilometers to the other prison being in shackles. So with us, it's a time to reflect. It's the time to introspection. How far are we? And what is the way forward? instead of going to the stadiums to have the DJs, always argue that every moment has its own time. If I'm in church, I can't come into the church with my karapa. We sing hymns. If it's time for festival, it's time for festival. But if it's time to reflect and to remember, because the history of this country is written in blood. But if we want to say, let us forget, the nation that does not know where it comes from, it will be a nation that will not know where it is going. Then we lose our direction. We have achieved political freedom. But if you look back, I was not allowed to vote. I remember sometimes when I used to drive with my father, when a white traffic cop, who could be not far from my age, stops him, he would jump out of his car, remove the cap, my bus, and then with us today you can engage. It's an achievement in terms of where we come from. But economic freedom, it's a long way for young people when I look at it, because they don't own production companies. Just when you look at it, the poverty, the unemployment now we see, and especially young black people, they are the ones who are on receiving end. Until all those things are achieved, and then that's why we can say, now we have achieved what we are fighting for from our forefathers and the class of 1976, and even the young people of today.